Hello, this is our UI to Code meeting for October 26th, 2022. First up is Megan.
Yeah, I wanted to give everyone a little update on how our Major League Hacking Fellows are doing with all of our Slippers updates. A lot of new stuff in production. I think we have to update a version or something to get this into the actual buyer experience project, but the stuff is living there now. We have a new custom dropdown, and I can show that actually. Under dropdown, and we have the original one where it's using native HTML elements for selections. The problem with making a custom one was that there would be a lot of accessibility issues. These are pretty difficult to make like custom wise and make sure all that stuff is kind of built in. But Wei, who did this, did an excellent job for the first iteration. There's a lot of ARIA labels deep in this, but it's just a normal add values and select, and then from a view standpoint it emits whatever value is selected. Further iterations on this, we're going to update some of the default text here to make it more like how we'd use it on our site. We're going to add a variant that will allow links, kind of like a external table of contents, allow these options to use like icons and whatnot. And there's also like a test here to kind of see that it's working. Next, I think there were loading spinners or loading options here. So we have a progress bar and a spinner. Yeah, so those. We have a tooltip component. Really basic. It doesn't take in Markdown or anything right now, just a string for the first iteration. This was a request, I think, in our last UI to code meeting to add the variables here under the table, and likewise with the colors. So those are some recent improvements. In progress, we're working on an intro page, kind of like the pajamas version. We don't really have a design for that, so we're just kind of going off a pajamas version and hopefully kind of just doing a lot of iterations to make it look great with the little content we have. But that's getting pretty close. I have to review that MR and make a lot of comments, but like it's going to be good. I'm really excited for that. Next, there's a components overview page, much like pajamas. Also a page I'm really excited about because this page kind of has, it's like our table of contents. You don't have to click through every component in Slippers to see what it does or what it's used for. Every component then should receive a description when like if a new component is created, so that someone can go to this overview page and it says breadcrumbs. Our breadcrumbs component is used to like show navigational hierarchy or something. So that way someone doesn't have to like click through and see like, okay, what's the best use case? And maybe they might find we don't have a component for that best use case yet. The accordion component, the first iteration of this is really close. One thing I'm having a hard time finding, or I just haven't had enough time to really dig into this, is our accordion component should really be taking in Markdown. Because as we use it on our site, like in the frequently asked questions instances a lot, we'll take in links or bold text or lists. So it needs to take in that Markdown. I'm not sure how to implement that in Storybook yet, but for this first iteration, those accordion dropdown values will just take in a string. And then finally, the Figma Storybook plugin. Lauren kind of mentioned before we started the recording. We're getting it up and running. It's difficult for someone without like our GitLab permissions and security to take on. But this developer, Emeka, did a really great job figuring it out kind of locally. So we've asked him to kind of document the process to set it up. And then we'll, Lauren or I or someone will take those steps and hopefully get this plugin up and running. Posted our link to a collection of issues that we have. Our fellows can't assign themselves to the issues because they don't have they're not in our project as like maintainers or something. So we have to keep track of our projects with a handbook page. So that link is there if anyone's interested. Moving on to the next step. Here, I wanted to note that it's hard to get like designer feedback on these things because since our developers, our fellows aren't like GitLab employees, they have to use a forked version of our Slippers repository. And so when they create merge requests, there's no review app. So I kind of have to like pull everything down locally and review it there. So I had a point here, like designers, how can we make this easier for you guys? Making things more efficient as you juggle that with all your other crazy work you're working on. Would screenshots help? Is it fine if we just do our best and like Lauren or I like really vetting the visuals, putting it into prod and having an issue where you look it over? I kind of did something like that with Jess anyway, but Jess, I saw you have a point next if you wanted to share that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take whatever we can get for sure. If a screenshot is all we have, we'll do our best. Obviously, you can't inspect a screenshot. That's the only downside. So it's harder to give like precise feedback. I am curious to see if that like Storybook Figma plugin might be like a workaround. I'm not 100% sure how that plugin works yet. But I am curious also just to see how that plugin works for like our QA process. So if that's something we can maybe like prioritize, if you think it'll help, maybe we could prioritize it and like see if we can get it up and running maybe a little bit faster just to see if it works for us. And then like my third option is like live coding. We just like get on a call with the fellow for half an hour and see if we can just, you know, have them inspect it. We can give them feedback real time, have them change it. If that's our only option, we can do that. And also if anyone else has any other ideas, for sure.
Yeah, all great ideas. That once we do get this plugin up and running, I'll make that a priority to test out like if it works for the pages, because the way you implement pages in Storybook are different than components, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. Yeah, we'll get that set up, but we'll start with screenshots, and like if it's just like a really big thing where it's like I can't show you like this long page with screenshots, like I think the live coding thing is a great solution. Before I pass it off to Javi, anyone want to share anything else regarding that stuff? That was a lot.
I just want to say I'm really stoked that all this work is getting done and the fellows are doing an amazing job. If they're watching, keep it up. It's great. Thanks.
So much getting done. All right, Javi, take it away.
My point is rather short but sweet. I filled out an issue with some help from folks on updating our DNS for GitLab, and like what that is all fancy talk for is that we have a subdomain for Slippers now. So if you go to slippers.gitlab.com, it'll route to our homepage of our Storybook instance. We can update the Slippers repository to make that root directory whatever we want. If we ever want to move towards like having a standards like public facing site and having like a /storybook or something, yeah, there's lots of options there, but that gives us a path moving forward for some of those things. And I know it's something that some of us in the team have asked for a long time. And so I just eventually just found out how to do it. And yeah, pretty stoked. Lauren, you're up next.
That's so cool. Slippers.gitlab.com. Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I was just saying, we're gonna need more work for our fellows. They are flying through it, crushing it. You know, they do work about 30 hours a week. There's 3 of them, so that's 90 hours. Got them until mid-December. Let's use them. So anything you want worked on, yeah, let's reroute all work to them because they are flying through it.
Okay, we can make that update in our Slippers DRI design files. We'll just should we tag you, Lauren, or Megan, or
Yeah, me or Megan. Yeah, one or the other. But yeah.
Sorry, I'll just say this because I'm not typing fast enough. I just had this idea after I had my donut with Ray yesterday. And I was wondering, with our current Slack integration, when there's like an update to an MR, you still have to ping somebody on Slack. I was just wondering, I don't even know if we can do this or if the fellows could do this, but what if we had like an integration where if you ping somebody on an MR, inside the MR, it also gives them a Slack notification.
I love the idea. We should do that. I don't think this is one for the fellows because they won't have access to our stack. And we already ran into that. We're running into that issue with the Figma plugin. So that's not really like an open source contribution. But we should create an issue and do it.
Do we want pings on Slack also? I mean, I guess it depends. I would rather not get pinged on Slack because I watch my to-dos and stuff in GitLab. So when I get pinged in the MR, that's like enough for me. I don't need like ping, 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 you know what I mean? So I would wonder if that could be like often, or like, yeah,
Well, I was thinking because I see like how Carrie pings like stakeholders for page reviews and she has to go and do a separate like ping inside of Slack. So maybe if there was a way just to do it all in one MR, so there's just not that extra step. And yeah, to your point, I also wouldn't want to get pinged for both. So maybe an option to do notifications for one or the other.
In our process change issue, there's a thread about creating a DEX stand-up channel. So we're gonna maybe depreciate our 3 team channels, just have the stand-up channel that our GitLab bot posts all the things to, and this type of automated notification would go into that channel as a possibility.
No last thoughts before we wrap up?
Someone stop the recording.